Dr. Bartlett, I want to thank you for having me here. It's been a great time. The first time I came 2 years ago, I laughed my butt off the entire time. Still have it.
It's still there, yeah.
I did laugh my butt off. And this time, it's been the same, and I really have enjoyed it. Today, you opened up with a story about trust. And this is something that just recently happened with you. It's about your dog who contracted parvo. And then you led us into sort of the whole thing about synchronicity with the other dog, your Boston Terrier. Can you?
That's right. Well, the parvo, I had puppies that died of parvo when I was quite a bit younger, when I was just a musician. Didn't know anything medical, couldn't have done anything. And it's not a good way to die. There is no good way to die, but I mean, come on, it's a long, protracted death. It's like Ebola or something. If you're a dog, it's terrible. And so our dog, we came home one day, and the dog was in its igloo, its little dog igloo outside, and wasn't moving. This is very unusual because she's a big Rottweiler Mastiff combo, big orange thing, and she's usually very active and very excited when we come home. When something like that is not moving, it's a bad sign. So we took her to the vet. Turned out she had parvo. They rushed her, got her right on an IV. They gave her some antiviral drugs, but she was not recovering. She was still throwing up. She was having a hard time. Now, synchronistically, we have another dog. She's a Boston Terrier Pug combo called a Bug. She was stolen recently by a lady, and she's a little puppy. I don't remember how old she is. She's probably about 4 months old. Puppies are particularly vulnerable to parvo. It's interesting that the whole getting stolen, you know, that doesn't sound like a good thing, and the parvo's certainly not a good thing. But here's the thing, if that puppy had not gotten stolen when it did, it would have contracted parvo, and absolutely nothing we could have done, it would have died. So it did not have the adequate amount of shots. Now, Mark and I, my partner, we came down to the vets the other day because the vet was still talking about putting the dog to sleep because they couldn't tell if it had a telescoping bowel, if it had a problem left over from the parvo, and if it did, they were still going to have to put it to sleep. So we went down there and we sat and looked, use the word looked in quotes, at the reality that was set up around the dog having parvo, being in the hospital, the reality of the vets and the way that was going to play out, and it didn't look good. So you could actually go to alternate possibilities. They say in quantum physics that parallel dimensions, everything that could happen must happen, but just on another level that you don't recognize it or notice it. So you're talking about the difference between possibilities, everything that could happen, versus probabilities, what's probably going to happen, given the reality or the subset of expectations you've set up for that encounter. So in the particular reality of the vet, it didn't look good. I mean, we could feel like the conclusion would be the dog would be put down and we wouldn't have that dog. Also in the reality where the dog's stolen, it doesn't look good either. But in a reality where you can switch things up and see them differently and know from a quantum physics standpoint that when you observe something at the level of the photon, the act of observing it, consciousness enters in and changes the configuration of that pattern and can actually transform experience so that you can have a whole different outcome. So you can actually, those possibilities become more probable because of the way you look and how you focus and what your intent brings to the equation. So doing that, we just heard this morning here at the seminar that our dog is coming home. She's going to get out of the hospital. She's going to be with us. And we got a call from the other dog's owner. The dog was sold and is in apparently another state. We got a call this morning right after the call about our other dog surviving parvo, and that dog's coming home now that it's safe to come home. So see, it's very synchronous. It's a bad thing the dog's stolen. It's a bad thing the dog develops parvo, but good thing we get to tell a story. She gets to have the experience of living through that. She'll have immunity for life. And the puppy, because it was stolen, didn't get parvo. So that's the way the universe can work, and we'll have them both back.
That's beautiful, and that really brings us into trust. Everything, and then there's no thing. So it's sort of like, what is reality? It's everything, and then it's nothing.
It's nothing, no, but nothing encodes for no thing, and no thing has the possibility of all things.
Right.
We process about 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information per second consciously, and but when we drive, for instance, we pay attention to all sorts of parameters that are unconscious that we've learned to pay attention to. So we have 11 billion bits of information that are possible within a given second from the unconscious or right brain perspective. that encodes for more that realm of all possibility. And even 11 billion, who decided? I mean, who decides that 11 billion is the number? I want to know what grad student had to count those 11 billion possibilities and then enumerate them. It had to be somebody a lot smarter than me, or someone that had a lot of drugs in the 60s, you know, so they can really hallucinate a lot of possibilities. Now, I talk about hallucinations because I don't think you can ever know what's real. I don't think you can know what's true or real. But what you can do is if you accept and use the terminology, well, I hallucinated this possibility, then you say, well, it's just as real to me, it's just as vivid and just as possible. And the way I live into that expectation and the way I configure my intent, it makes it more probable. And you can actually learn new patterns, learn new things by moving in the expectation of probability that an outcome, given the way you're observing it, will change it. And if you know that from the quantum physics and you know you're just made of photons, it becomes completely reasonable that you can look at something and change that reality.
You know, it reminds me of a quote by Max Lerner. He says, "I'm neither a pessimist nor an optimist. I'm a possibilist." Let me tell you what happened to me when I got back from the first time that I spent here with you guys in Seattle. I went back to Houston, and I felt like I was really initiated. Maybe you can give me some light on this. When I first got back, I'm walking out of my studio. I teach yoga as well, one of the many things that I do. And I was reading something, and I was looking down as I was walking to my car, and I just hit unlock on my alarm. Bloop, bloop. Okay, well, I look up. There's my car. Open the door, sit inside, and I start to smell it. And I'm like, this doesn't smell like my car. And I turned around, I looked in the back seat, and I'm like, where's my stuff? Because you would think that I lived in the back of my car. I have thousands of books and God knows what.
I know the phenomenon.
You know the phenomenon. And then I look up and I'm like, those aren't my sunglasses. And so then I hear in my head the Twilight Zone. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. I'm like, this isn't my car. And it took me a couple of seconds to realize I'm not in the Twilight Zone. I'm still, I think, on Earth. And I look over and my car's 2 cars down. So what are the odds that someone forgot to lock their car door? It's a 2003 limited silver Toyota 4Runner, and I'm sitting in it in this day and age. The next day, the same thing happened to me, but I walked into the wrong apartment. I had just moved into a new complex, and I live on the 3rd floor, parked on the roof. I walk down the hallway, open up a door. I see a purse, and I see a pair of shoes. I have a roommate, and I'm like, oh, Melody's home. Lay down my groceries. Melody, hey, I'm home. Who is that? Who goes there? And I'm like, okay. I look around. This is not my furniture. This isn't my house. Again, I start hearing the Twilight Zone. I'm like, I'm sorry, I just moved in. I start to back away. Twilight Zone music as I'm backing away, and I'm still not getting it. I parked on the roof. I walked down, you know, this hallway. I opened the door. The door was unlocked. What are the odds? Well, what had happened was I parked on the roof and a half. It's the duplicate of the other side, and I walked down, you know, which looked like the same hallway, opened up the same door, same floor plan, but I wasn't in my house. So I started laughing both times. I'm high-fiving the universe because I'm like, that was good. Oh, that was good. But you know, it's like, is that like an initiation of the playful universe? Because you talk a lot about play, and I think play and laughter is so important, and I really believe that has been a portal to open up a lot of this quantum universe with a lot of people who have studied with you, including myself.
Play is so important because if you're serious about something, you're only going to see it in the ways you've been taught and the way you've been taught to behave, what's polite behavior in society. Children don't know anything about that. They'll say the most impolite things. They'll say the craziest, wankiest things, and they'll see things that aren't there in the adult's reality.